Yeah, I want to talk about the currency crisis that I think is coming up, but it's not going to be the situation where I think all these gold and silver pumpers, we might call them sometimes, is going to say it's going to be. I'm going to talk about basically currencies and hard currencies too. Even during times of global, we had the Great War, the war to end all wars. 1914, 1918, when it ended, and the World War II. And during all these crises, basically World War II actually started in the 1930s and ended in 1945. And Great Depressions throughout the whole world in the 30s. And throughout all these crises, there's currencies that have survived even in their present form. And, if you want to talk, like, there's hard currencies and soft currencies. They'll call hard currencies that are stable and they're accepted as payment anywhere in the world. And what you might consider, well, the U.S. dollar is considered a hard currency. People say, it's paper. It's a hard currency. It's accepted anywhere in the world. Just about. I mean, there's little stories out there about different things, but it's pretty much the premier currency in the world, hands down. Yes, I know the United States debt is way up there and all that type of stuff, but there's a lot of ways they can finagle that around too. But when I say yes, I think the metals are going to go up a lot, the commodities are going to go up a lot, and I use the word super spike. Spike meaning it's going to spike. There's going to be a few fake outs, but there's going to be a super spike at the end where it's going to spike up and then come down, and not to the levels where it's at today, but it'll be a lot, higher. But it's going to get way ahead of itself at one point in time, and you're going to have to be lucky to sell it at the right point in time. But my point on this is that the U.S. dollar, I think, is going to survive. That's what I think. Maybe a little bit different, but it's going to survive. Because the world has gone through many, many problems before. I mean, it would have to be something catastrophic, far beyond anything that ever happened, that, there would be a whole reset, like, these people are pushing, with the metals and stuff, like the dollar's going to go away completely. I don't think it is. I think the metals are going to go up in relation to the dollar, but the dollar's not going to go away completely. No way in hell, okay? Debt or no debt. Now, what I consider hard currencies today, or what is actually commonly considered hard currencies today, U.S. dollar is one. The euro is another one, but it's getting a little more iffy because it's, how long is it going to last? How much longer is the euro going to hold together? It's a new currency. But, what it's been around at, what used to be the global currency, global world reserve currency, was the British pound. The British pound is going to be around. It's going to be around for many, many, many years. And, it's not going to go away. Maybe this isn't what people want to hear, but I'm telling you right now, this is a fact. It's not going to go away. Some of these currencies are not going to go away, period. The Swiss franc. The Swiss franc is another hard currency that's been around a long time. It's not going to go away that easy. No matter what the currency crisis happens to be. And if you even take a country like, it could be even the Norwegian Krona. The Norwegian Krona, that's a stable country. I know they use the euro too, but that's another currency that, there's several of them that are not going to go away because, in Norway, the debt situation is very much managed very well. But, this is when they talk about a currency crisis and a reset, I don't think it's going to play out exactly the way people think. And I think what's really going to happen is there may be a devaluation of the dollar, that type of deal. But is it going to go away? No. It's probably going to, there's probably going to be some other global currency that's going to come out. And almost like when we have with the European Union, where they use two currencies or three currencies within a country, there may be a global reserve currency, but it's not going to be the only currency around, period. It's going to take a long, long, long time before it ever turns where there's one currency throughout the world. That's going to take a hell of a long time. And, some of the other ideas, like, people float out there, because, a lot of these people aren't, even if they are accounting, finance, I don't know what the hell they are, but you know, you would have a nightmare trying to convert everything over to another currency, like just all of a sudden snap your fingers. But the other thing is, here's where my, I don't know if you want to call it shoot from the hip common sense, whatever the hell you want to say, what it is, I don't know. I don't like saying it that way, but, you know, the elite, I'm not talking about the 1%, I'm talking about the 1 basis point, the 1/100th of 1%. Their racket is connected to the big banking system, the banking and finance system. Why would they want the dollars to go to oblivion? Why would they want to lose all that racket? Why would they want their investments to go to oblivion if they're measured in dollars? Why would they want that to happen? They don't. They don't. And, you know, by you just buying silver and gold, that's not going to topple them. You know, what actually, like I said, is going to topple the elite is not using pretty much any of their products out there as much as possible. If you get more independent, you know, on a hands-on basis by doing everything on your own and not supporting like big foreign corporations, that would freaking put a dent in the elite after a period of time. But most people don't do that. They don't. That's really the problem. Most people are not independent-minded, or they don't want to work hard enough to be independent. But the elite do not want to lose control at all, and they're not going to lose control at all because they're not they're workaholics and they're smart. That's part of the reason. They got their finger basically on the public pulse. They know what the public wants. You know, a lot of times even elitists that become billionaires or whatever, or multi-millionaires, you know, they understand what the public wants and they give it to them. And that's how they freaking make their money. They understand that. You know, sometimes, where the elite come from, actually, sometimes these jerks come from the public actually made them in the first place, you know. Sometimes you wonder where this junk comes from. You know, you see this in Hollywood. I always see this in Hollywood. How does this person make $1 gazillion in Hollywood and I don't like that person? Well, it's because a lot of people supported that person. You know, that's what happens. That's what happens. But the thing is, the elite are not going to give up their rackets. That's why there's not going to be this currency crisis where everything goes to oblivion. That's BS. It's not going to happen. I'm almost guaranteed it's not going to happen, despite all the debt and everything like that, because like I said, there's a lot of natural resources even in the United States, in oil and in for instance, one way to protect the dollar is to actually make energy prices go way the hell up. I've been saying this, and I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, but I think this is where the dollar is going to get protected, because between Canada, the United States, and Mexico, inside of about a year or two, it's going to be all energy independent. Actually, there's going to be more energy produced than used, and people are slowing down how much energy they're using. Actually, the elitists that are that actually own the oil companies will be able to sell to other people. But if they say, for instance, oil is going for $200 a barrel instead of $100 a barrel, then all of a sudden the assets that they have, and that's within the borders of the United States, could actually, it makes the debt look like smaller. Basically, it makes the dollars, it's like, what is $17 trillion in oil? Well, it's this much in oil. It's half as much oil that you need. It's half as much gold you need. That type of stuff. So, as gold, say, went up to, $8,000 to $10,000 an ounce, well, then you don't need that many that much gold reserves to back up your dollar. You see what I'm saying? That's why I said the dollar's not going to go away completely. It's not. It may get devalued, but when they talk about this currency crisis, yes, there'll be a currency crisis. There's going to be devaluation, but is it going to go away? No. I mean, there was a currency crisis with the British pound many years ago after World War I. There's been crises. Has it gone away? No. It's the British pound today is a hard currency. It's not just a good currency. It's a hard currency. It's a currency that you can walk around any bank in any place in the world and say, I got British pounds. I need to exchange it for the currency that's used in this country. And they could do it. They could do that in the United States. They could do that everywhere. They could do that everywhere. It's a hard currency. Same with Swiss francs. Norwegian Kronas I consider a hard currency because it's a very stable currency, but maybe it's not as well. It is internationally recognized, and you will find places you could trade that in. But I'm giving out examples. Well, the euro is another one, even though it's not, it doesn't have a bright future. It's still recognized everywhere in the world, and it's still a fairly stable currency compared to what could be considered soft currencies. Like an example would be the Argentine peso. So don't expect, in relation to other currencies, the dollar is not going to fall in relation to other currencies that drastically. It's going to fall in relation to other currencies, but it's not going to go to like really, really bad. What's going to happen is products that have real value are going to go up. And like I said, the elite do not want to lose control of, because the elite, I don't want to give them the 1%. It's the 1 basis point, and it's even smaller. It's even a more small infinitesimal fraction than that are connected to the accounting and banking system. The banking and finance system. That's really where they're extracting their wealth from, in dollars. They're not going to give that up as the power. Like I said, if there's an actual debt out there that keeps growing exponentially, well, it's going to take, 8,000 tons of gold is going to equal this many in dollars. It's going to equal, 10 times as many dollars then. And then guess what? That shores up the debt. Because the asset went up 10 times, or the oil prices went up twice, or whatever. So, in that respect, this way, I just want to tell people this because, these guys that are pushing this fear crap, they got it so freaking wrong. It's amazing. But then on the other side, there's people telling you that silver and gold's never going to go up. Bullshit. Anyway, do what the hell you want. I don't give a shit if you never buy an ounce of silver, an ounce of gold, and you want to stick with that premise. Do what the hell you want. I don't even care. Now, something else I'm going to talk about: how the government is lying with the statistics on unemployment, whatever the hell it is. Like they went down to 6-point-something%, which is great from, I don't know, maybe a year ago it was at 8%, and all this 8-point-something%. And, it's improving. But what's going on? It's like people are dropping off the employment rolls, right? That's really what's going on. And, what's bad about that is that is actually cutting true productivity. True productivity isn't really being measured correctly with this GDP number they throw out there because it's government spending. And it's also these big banks. When they say the GDP of the big banks and the pharmaceutical companies, which they'll include research and development on pharmaceutical companies as part of GDP, research and development of garbage that can kill you. You know what I mean. I hate pharmaceutical companies. In other words, they can spend $1 billion on research, and it's not even $1 billion, it's billions, on research and development and of new pills that could screw you up versus just taking a plant, astragalus or something from Chinese root, plant, herb. And they'll say that's part of the GDP. It's I actually look at, when I see GDP, I like to really look at manufacturing, period. And that's not doing good in the United States. But unemployment is really telling you how bad it is in the United States. And this is really what it is, because and they're telling you the unemployment rate is going down, but that's the people that are unemployed that are on the government rolls. So in other words, people long-term unemployed are off the government rolls. And you see, this is where it really comes into, even the expectations are being not met. If you remember back in December 2013, they expected, they predicted 196,000 jobs to be added to the rolls. 196,000. That was in December 2013. What happened was there was 75,000. So they missed expectations, like, they got like less than 40% or whatever it was, to which was of what they expected to be added. They got 75,000 actual added to the rolls, and who knows what kind of jobs they were. Maybe they were like jobs that are paying less than what people expected or whatever it was, or than the average. But they got actually 75,000 versus 196,000 expected in December 2013. See, that's what actually affected the markets too. But Then in January 2014, they predicted, the jobs report wasn't really so good. They predicted 185,000 to be added to the roll, and it was 113,000. So about 60, I don't know, 60-something% of what expectations were. I didn't figure out the percentage. 60-something% of what expectations were, or whatever. So, what I'm saying is, the economy actually is not good, and what's going on is, what it's really causing the problem is, it's being squeezed by the banking and finance system. But, the elite on the top are not going to allow the dollar to freaking fall apart. What's going to happen is, this is a fact, though, too. Goldman Sachs is buying gold. I mean, it's not their only damn investment, but they're buying gold. But you know what? All these clowns on the top buy real hard assets, whether it's real estate, things that they can rent out to people, commodities. It may not just be commodities, but it'd be something, to tell you the truth, like Goldman Sachs looks at something. If they want to freaking, I'm a little familiar with what they look at. It's just standard 101. They look at the return on investment. They want to see a proven income stream, proven. Then they want to give you like a little bit of money for it. And then they want to see, what it's expected. They want to see it all laid out. In other words, when Goldman Sachs buys an asset, they want a sure thing. And they unload the garbage on their clients, is just from what I'm understanding. In other words, if they got garbage, they'll have to repackage it into things that will be that the clients bite. And basically, the way they I'm getting off track here, but in a vague way, because I don't understand all the inner workings, but I understand some of it because I seen where people talked about this, and I don't want to say who it was, who the people I knew, but if they package an investment, what they'll do is they'll have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. Basically, tier 1 has the good stuff, and so that's what keeps it rolling. In other words, that's what's actually providing the income stream to the people. It's actually producing income. So when the people invest, they get some money back, a percentage back every year. Then tier 2, tier 3, then they got some garbage in their assets that are valued at really high prices than what they really should be, but they're in there as part of the investment. So like you don't get to that tier until all these other tiers start falling down. And then if these start collapsing, these good performing assets start collapsing, if the situation hasn't changed with the poor performing assets, well, guess what? The whole thing just goes to oblivion. That's actually happened. That's actually what they did, what J.P. Morgan did with the mortgages and all this type of stuff like that. But these guys are not going to lose out by saying, we're not going to use dollars. They're not going to do that. What is a currency crisis? What's going to happen is it's going to be hard assets are going to go up a lot. They're still going to have the U.S. dollar. That's going to be a hard currency for many years to come. The British pound is going to be around a long, long, long time. The euro, I think maybe if it's still going to be around. Say it splits into a northern euro and a southern euro, whatever. It's still going to be around. The Norwegian Krona is going to be around. I'm just mentioning a few. There's going to be a lot of currencies that are going to be around. And what they'll do, they'll add in a global reserve currency to that. That's what they'll do. I almost know this for a fact. I mean, I don't need to know like a bankster. I know what they would do. They're not going to give up their racket. It's that simple. They're not going to give up their racket. If the dollar goes to zero, they lost all their money. The elite lost all their money. Even if they got assets, if it goes to zero, they lost all their money. Because, well, the whole game is up for them, basically. The whole game is up for them. That's not going to happen because they're calling the shots. They're calling the shots. The dollar is always going to be worth something. It's always going to be a hard currency, and it's going to go down in value in relation to other hard goods, especially like gold and silver. Now, I say, when gold goes up and silver goes up, platinum and palladium, I say they're going to super spike at one time. They're going to fake us out a couple times, but when they go up and they super spike, they're going to come back down. They're not going to come down to these levels, but they're going to come down. And you'll know when it's going to be, well, I'm not going to know 100% because it's probably going to go up more than I think. You know, when I'm saying 8, 10,000 gold, I don't know where the hell it could go. I mean, it could do something astronomically stupid. And I'll call it that. It would be stupid. I mean, gold could go to 20, you know, I'm saying this, but it could be like in a window of a week where gold goes to $20,000 an ounce in a week or 2 days or real briefly, overnight or some bullshit like that. And you know who's going to be dumping it on the people at that time, right? The elite. They'll have it too. They'll have it too. You know, if it went to like $5,000 an ounce and it was going up, you know, there'd be a lot of people telling you, there'd be tons of people telling you 20,000 an ounce then. You know, I'll guarantee you that. I'll guarantee you that. But, you know, when it gets up that high, I already would think it's getting dangerous. But I expect, you know, it probably to go to $8,000 an ounce or even more at the peak. At the peak, which means, there's a downward slope. Just remember that. So hard currencies aren't going to disappear. They're not going to disappear. They're going to be worth less in relation to other assets, but they're not going to disappear. They're always, hard currencies are going to be around. You're going to lose, you'll lose, and that they're less worth, but they're not going to go to zero. Hard currencies are like the U.S. dollar and the British pound and the euro. I don't even think the euro is going to disappear. Even if it even half had a problem and it's split, the old euro would be able to be traded in. They're not going to go away. They're not going to go away. You know, this is not like an infallible freaking prediction. I mean, it could be wrong. But if you look back, we've had some serious crises over the last 100-something years. And if you look back, you know, soft currencies went to zero. You know, like currencies that were always unstable went to zero, correct? But these other currencies that we got, even though they're not backed by, you know, in a way, the dollar is backed by oil. Just remember that. You know, when you start seeing the end coming, oil prices are going to be $200 a barrel or maybe more. But that, in effect, will take less dollars to back up. In other words, there's less oil to back up the dollars that are out there, including the debt. That's why the dollar is not going to go away completely. It won't. Just remember that. It's not a good investment to have most of your money in currency, though. But it's not going away. Just want to make sure people understand that, because I see extremes on both sides of this argument, and I think they're both wrong. So, okay?